Hey everyone! So finally PiHole 5 is out of beta, and with it, it brings a lot of questions like how does it perform, how easy it is to upgrade from previous versions, whether it is available in Docker, or what new features does it bring. So let's find out. But first, if you're new to the channel, let me introduce myself. My name is László Márccal, and this channel deals with home automation, home networking, and occasionally with related topics like 3D printing and DIY electronics. So if you're interested in PiHole 5, let's get to it. Honestly, I've been running PiHole for a long time, long enough to say that I'm very satisfied with it. And since it's been running nicely and without any problems, it's just sitting there on my Docker host, I would say I'm not upgrading. But come on, this is a major version, so let's try it. What I will do in this video first is to have this running installation compared to a freshly installed version of PiHole 5 to see the differences on the UI and spot some new features and whatnot. So let's do that. First, I will just do the usual Raspberry Pi based installation that is pretty normal for most of the people. So let's go to PiHole's main website and see what can we do. So it says install supported operating system. Well, let's see the operating systems. So Raspbian, Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora and CentOS. And here we go. Oops, run into a problem. So on my lab Raspberry Pi 4, I'm running Ubuntu 20, and apparently it's not yet supported, or maybe it is supported, who knows. But anyway, we will try something else. So let's say Raspbian Buster. Just give me a few minutes and I will just reinstall that Raspberry Pi with Buster. Okay, so fresh Raspberry Pi install. So let's see PiHole installation. Looks simple enough. So one-step automated install. By the way, here I'm going with the default installation process. But if you want to check anything, just feel free to slow down the video. By the way, you might wonder why I'm showing these installation steps. Actually, there are two reasons. First, to show you that nothing has really changed and it's still a lot of steps, and some of those steps might be a bit too technical for the average user. And the second reason is that exactly because of these steps, that's why I prefer the Docker-based installation. So let's get over with this and finish the installation, then check out possible new features and stuff like that, and then we will get to the Docker part. And now let's see the new user interface, if there's anything new. This is the password that we get during the installation. You might want to change that. So pretty much a similar interface. You can see some new things like this group management. And then this local DNS records. So let's take a look on these features first. Local DNS records and group management. Let's start with local DNS records. So here you can add domain/IP associations, which means that you can use PiHole as a DNS server, and You can, for example, if you have like smart devices running on your system, like I do, and let's say those are microcontrollers, so they probably don't have a hostname, and if you want to connect to them, you have to remember the IP addresses. Now with this, you can just start adding domain names to your devices, which is a cool feature. Actually, you could do this with older versions of PiHole, but you needed to change some configuration files and whatnot. So this is actually cool. I really love this feature. Then this group management. Okay, so to be honest, I have to look at the documentation for this because I'm not sure what I mean. The UI is not really intuitive, even for somebody who is pretty much experienced with networking. So not sure what am I grouping here. I mean clients, maybe. Not sure. Yeah, clients, because as you can see I can add clients here, then it will end up in this list. Let's add my PC. So my PC, and then let's add here, and then I can add it to a group. Oh, none. Okay, create a group. Let's say call this a crazy guy who wants to watch adverts for some weird reason. So let's create a group like this. Crazy. Okay. Whoops. So actually the space in the group name creates two groups. So let's make it crazy guy and then remove this other one. And I mean remove it. Yeah. And now it's crazy again. As I said, it's not really intuitive, but I get the idea. So we have this group called crazy, and then let's get back to the clients, and I can, okay, it's crazy guy, okay, and then let's add that PC to that group, default group, whatever is that, remove it. And now domain management. So what is this? Add to blacklist, add to whitelist. And I think, yeah, you can add, actually, it's like having multiple installation of Raspberry, or I mean PiHole, with different settings, but you just create these groups, and you can have add lists assigned to groups. So I mean, if I remove, it means that because I removed my PC from the default group and it is part of the crazy guy group, my PC now should be ignoring all the ad blocks. I mean, no adverts will be blocked because not any of the block lists are corresponding to that group. So this is a way to fine-tune your installation and basically create rule sets, like I want to view adverts on this and this and this device, but I don't want to able to load any adverts on that device, or maybe a portion of some adverts on other devices and whatnot. And on the second thought, actually, it's not, I mean, for the first glimpse, it's not really an intuitive UI, but once you get the concept, actually, it's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, I will definitely use it. I mean, there are some things that are getting blocked, and sometimes I just want to see those adverts. Yeah, Call me an idiot, but there are useful adverts actually. That's my personal opinion. So these two features are already really cool. And as I can see, the global whitelist is still a thing. But I think, yeah, the global blacklist is also here. Long-term data. Can't remember this, but yeah, I had this. Okay. So I think those are the new features for the first glimpse from the user's point of view. Final word about new features before proceeding to the Docker part. So I usually look for something called the changelog when I check out a new version of software, but there's no such thing here, or at least not on the main page. However, there's a blog entry hidden here. Not really hidden, but for me that wasn't the usual place I look for. So where all the features are listed, and this group management is here, and everything I just described. So if you're interested in smaller features and whatever, then feel free to check out this blog entry. Now on to the Docker part. Okay, so let's do a super quick installation of PiHole 5 using Docker on a Raspberry Pi 4. So what I will use is basically that Docker host I put together a few videos ago. I will link it in the description, so you can use that as a base if you don't have a solid base for running Docker on Raspberry Pi 4. And this is also running Ubuntu 20 64-bit, so let's go. First, obviously, we will need something to pull the container, and we will use Docker Compose. So I've already prepared the Docker Compose file. I will just paste it here in an editor. So let's say we need a folder, and then go to the folder, and there we go. We need this. So what we do here, we're pulling PiHole version 5. Actually, you can see that a few versions ago they have changed slightly changed the name of the container, or the image actually. So what we set up here is a few volumes for data, then the usual stuff like when the container we need to restart and stuff like that. And of course we can set up a default admin password here, because once the container is started, changing the password is not that easy. Anyway, let's go. I will also talk about this last line later. So let's start the whole thing up. And now it's getting created. And there we go, we have run into a problem. So as you can see, address already in use. This means that Ubuntu 20 is already running something on this port. And that is a piece of software called systemd resolved, which is basically like a mini local DNS resolver on the Ubuntu installation. But we need to disable that. Luckily for us, disabling it won't be causing a lot of problems for us, because we will run our own DNS resolver, which is PiHole. So let's do that. Let's disable systemd resolved. Once again, we will need a few commands that I already prepared. So we have just disabled the service, but because it is still running, we also need to stop it. There we go. And then we will need to change the configuration file. there's a configuration file called resolve conf in case of Linux systems, and this is a configuration for DNS resolution. Basically, it has the system what DNS servers to use. And in case systemd-resolved is running, it replaces the original file with its own configuration, and it's just the symlink. So we are getting here rid of the symlink, and now we can replace it with our own configuration. Also, don't mind this. This is because we have disabled systemd-resolve. So let's create a new file instead of this symlink. So let's say nano, and then there we go, and let's see the contents for this file. So this means that whenever named resolution will take place, then first we should try the localhost, and that is because we are running PiHole on this machine. And if that fails, because for example the container is dead or shut down or whatever, then we will turn to some DNS servers provided by Google. So let's save this file. Oops, another mistake. You need to use sudo or be a root user to edit this file. So let's do that again, and then let's save. There we go. So at this point we can reboot and then retry the whole thing again. I mean starting PiHole. So let's reboot. Okay, there we go. So we are reconnected successfully, and then let's try PiHole again. And yet another problem. So what's going on here? This is because, if you remember, our Docker compose file, we have mounted another resolve.conf file, and this is says /resolve.conf, so it means that in the same directory, so we need to create it. And this will be the same resolve.conf, but for our container. So it will contain definitions for what has to be used within the container for DNS resolution, domain name resolution. So let's create this file. And once again, we will use the same contents. Actually, I could just mount the same file from the system, but I would rather not. I mean, I don't like the idea of mounting random system files into a container, especially with into a privileged container, but again, more on that later. And this looks much better. So actually you can see here that it's looking for this resolve.conf file, and it loaded its contents, and now PiHole initialization is ongoing. So it's pulling block lists and whatnot. And at this point we can be pretty sure that PiHole is running, because we run into no error message. So let's see. And there we go. So we have PiHole up and running on the Raspberry Pi, and we can log in with that password we have provided in the Docker compose file. Okay, so looks good. Now to the query log. Let's try this. So you can easily try it from Windows, for example, with the NS lookup command. So I'm just looking up the IP address of steampower.com, and the second parameter is the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. So boom, there we go. Actually, you can see that it was answered by the Raspberry Pi, and it resolved the address, and we can immediately see it in the query log. So, mission accomplished. Finally, before ending the video, I want to talk a bit more about the Docker Compose file. It will be useful information, especially for those who are not familiar with this. So, this is currently your best bet to run PiHole in the Docker container on newer versions of Ubuntu. And this applies to both PC and to the Raspberry Pi, starting from Ubuntu 18, I think. Because, there are restrictions in the operating system, and those restrictions are because of security. Because the operating system does not really want the container to mess around. But within PiHole, and especially I think within Light HTTP D, which is a component of PiHole, and maybe within DNS mask matcher, there are operations which are not permitted by Ubuntu by default. And those operations are only allowed for privileged containers. Privileged containers are like the root user on a normal Linux operating system. It means that they can do much more, they can invoke operations which are normally not permitted. So use this with PiHole, but don't copy paste it to another container unless you know what you are doing. Because containers, especially coming from not really well-known sources, can do nasty things with privileged set to true. But anyway, basically this is the end of this tutorial. So you can now run PiHole 5 on a Raspberry Pi 4 and on Ubuntu 20. And again, this whole thing can be done on PC as well, even for Ubuntu 18 and Ubuntu 20. So either you're running it on a PC or on a Raspberry Pi, it should be the same. Even the whole Docker Compose file, the resolve.conf, and all the comments I actually executed here. Anyway, let's call it. Thanks for watching the video. I hope it was useful, and see you next week. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit like. If you want to help my channel and see more of my content, hit subscribe. If you want to check out behind the scenes and want to know more about me, then follow me on social media. You can find the links here. Thank you again, and see you next time.